This videotape is based on the autobiography of Jan van Dane, a Dutch painter who was one of the first to create a totally abstract painting style in 1912-1913. The title of the tape, Absolute Art, was invented by Jan van Dane and his friend Jacob Bendien to designate their unique art. (1908) Amsterdam. I've obtained my art teacher's certificate. Now it turns out there's a surplus of drawing teachers. I haven't succeeded in finding a job. Actually, I'm relieved. Teaching is not the thing for me. (1909) Now I'm pretty much left to my own devices. I still go to the academy in the evenings. They're teaching me to see forms in a larger context. During the day, I write or paint. Things look pretty bad for me. It's quite discouraging. Sometimes I'm close to despair, but my belief in the ethical power of beauty keeps me going. I persevere stubbornly on the path I've chosen. At home, I made a couple of portraits somewhat in the style of Joseph Israels. I make sketches outdoor and use them for composing completely finished paintings. I've tried bringing some to galleries, but without success. (1910) I'm still having a hard time, but I feel happy. My friends visit me often, and we have conversations that sometimes last until dawn. I feel rebellious. I worry especially about the inferior level of art compared to the earlier days. I attribute this to the decline of religions, the absence of a true elite, and the leveling off of spiritual life due to the forces of the emerging masses. Summer. I've gotten a book on the French Impressionists. I was barely familiar with their work. It has been a powerful stimulus for me. The brown tones are replaced by clear, lively colors. This is how I came to brighten my palette and increasing the power of the color in my work. This doesn't please my friends. They ask me, how do you expect to paint a parrot if you portray mundane objects in such intense colors? 1911. Kees van Dongen, a Dutchman living in Paris, is exhibiting at the city's museum. Paris attracts me. It has become a promised land for me. But how can I get the necessary funds? Autumn, 1911. I've arrived in Paris. I feel like a king now that I'm here in this painter's Mecca. My father paid for my trip and is going to send me a small allowance each month. I've settled into a small hotel on the Rue de Départ. If you aren't familiar with Paris, it's hard to imagine how nice it is here, and cheap. I was anxious to meet Conrad Kickert, the man who organized Van Dongen's exhibit. His apartment is part of a large building where, among others, Piet Mondrian also has a studio. Kickert is wealthy and holds a reception every Monday afternoon. Today, I met Otto van Ries and his wife there. Kickert gave me the name and addresses of galleries that should be interesting for me. The most interesting by far is Gallery Kahnweiler, located on a small street behind the Madeleine. The only works hung there are by George Braque and Pablo Picasso. The new art form created mainly by these two, Cubism, has produced works that move me. Compositions in sober colors, ochres, black, white, and gray, all with the same simple motifs, arranged differently each time. Bits of woodwork, playing cards, newspaper clippings, a mandolin. The forms are divided into figures and planes that overlap each other and are combined to make a harmonious and somewhat mysterious whole, which is difficult to decipher. Cubism is not simply a new concept of art like Impressionism. In essence, Cubism actually means a real revolution. By striving after something that surpasses the personal, the Cubists elevate Cubism to the spiritual level of the great religions. In my hotel room, I painted a self-portrait thoughtfully with small dabs of paint like the Impressionists did. Although it is probably better than any work made in the Netherlands right now, it doesn't satisfy me. I'm trying to put the lessons I've gotten from French art into practice, but of course, it's not enough to be an imitator. I must find my own concept. It is clear to me in which direction I must search. I must make a departure from the realistic depiction of things. But how does one reach that point? I sense that everything I've learned up till now has become worthless to me, that my whole period of study at the normal school and the academy are lost years. I have to start all over again. I like music very much. I've attended a number of concerts for a very small price. That helps me to find flowing lines and, as it were, musical, rhythmic composition in my drawings. The music fires me, inspires me. It also has inspired me to write several sonnets. Winter, 1911. Today, an unknown Dutchman visited me. His name is Jacob Bendien. He's a tall fellow, extremely nervous, with black curly hair and a goatee. He told me he worked as a traveling salesman for his father's hosiery factory in Amsterdam. But he's scared to death of going into a store to praise his wares. Added to that, he stutters. So, he had to give up that work and started to paint. Bendien is a couple of years younger than I am. Our ideas about art and painting coincide amazingly well. That immediately gave us a feeling of alliance. But on the subject of philosophy, we have profound differences. It's becoming clear to me that he is moved by all the suffering of the world more than I am. And he pins his faith on the idea of universal companionship. He cherishes a recollection of two young boys walking down the street with their arms around each other's shoulders. I have no faith in that. I believe that a man, with his good and bad characteristics, will always remain the same. My goal is to reinforce man's religious feeling through beauty. Spring, 1912. An artistic cooperation has developed between Bendien and myself. We are still searching. I'm influenced by Cézanne, the Cubist, the Fauvists. I'm trying to achieve an extraordinary kind of expression by the intentional use of deformations and unnatural colors. We carry on long conversations about art, religion, philosophy, and society. We both have studios now, a 2 minutes walk away from each other. Sometimes he knocks on my door at 6:30 in the morning. Then his first words are, Last night I reached great wisdom. We do agree that the use of flowing transitions between colors is forbidden because it fogs up the emotions to be expressed by the neighboring colors. In other words, colors must be applied in planes with clear borders. Only then will colors, as well as the forms, have maximum emotional value. From now on, we will both base our work on this principle. This morning, Bendine shaved off his goatee. That gives his face an even more angelic look. He's also going to cut off his pretty curls. He's having a pair of clippers sent from his house in Amsterdam. From now on, we will shave each other's heads. That is the outward sign that we've sworn off all romanticism and faced the reality of a new age in a sober, businesslike way. I have to report the remarkable fact that because of my daily contact with him, I have also started stuttering. When Bendine receives money, the first thing he does is go to the paint store. A bit later on, one can see him walking down the boulevard, shouldering a large roll of painter's linen like a rifle, a soldier in the struggle for truth in a new age. Proudly, I walk next to him, proud in the awareness of our task, proud of our work, proud of such a proud and vigilant comrade. On one of our wanderings through the city, Bendine and I discovered a door on the river side of the Louvre that gives access to a stairway and several rooms with Indo-Chinese objects of art. They are Buddhist representations, but what's remarkable is that some are divided into color fields contained by curving lines, which strongly resembles our recent works. Our works, just like theirs, have a meditative quality. This confrontation with the Orient has strengthened our self-confidence and encourages us to continue in the direction we've chosen. Summer, 1912. I had a dream last night. I dreamt that I was climbing a high mountain together with all my painter friends. Our progress was slow. There were many obstacles, slopes that were steep. We slipped. Finally, I succeeded in finding a foothold, pulling myself up and reaching the top. Jacob Bendine was near me, I reached out and pulled him up. Autumn, 1912. I've taken the last step. I've decided to banish all memories of certain people and incidents, to try exclusively portraying the nearly religious excitement about beauty. This is how the so-called non-figurative paintings originated. Bendine agrees with me that this stands for the most extreme consequences of our views. I call our new art form absolute art. Indeed, we've designed an absolute music of colors, comprehensible to those sensitive to art throughout the world, a universal form of art that goes beyond the personal and can be practiced by everyone. I've reached the highest peak of the mountain. Our searching and experimenting is over. Winter, 1913. I'm alone again. Bendine has left for Berlin. I can't find work, and my money is nearly gone. I wander for hours through the city, examining my thoughts and trying to find a focal point for my future, which is totally uncertain at this point. Influenced perhaps by my conversations with an ex-monk, which have made me more humble, a great change is taking place in me. Among other things, he told me that the most abominable little statue, a factory product bought in a store for religious articles, would please God as much as the purest artwork for his worship. He dealt an even greater blow to my pride by declaring that the lines by Paul Verlaine, "Oh mon Dieu, vous m'avez blessé d'amour, et la blessure est encore vibrante," which I think are sublime, mean nothing special, since the expression "wounded by God's love" is quite usual for Catholics. Actually, I'm beginning to think that painting is childish stuff. A grown man, alone, smearing paint on a canvas that no one looks at. It's some sort of spiritual blot on oneself. Isn't it a bit more worthy to live with and among others? To influence them and the course of events through your personality? I admit that influence will be slight, but then one has that in common with everyone. And so, I've arrived at a decision to bid art of painting farewell. When I receive money from home again, I'll travel back to Amsterdam. (1914) Now that I'm presented with the opportunity of going into business, I'll seize it with both hands. Of course, I'm beginning to get fed up with my perpetual poverty. Deep within me lies a longing to start a family. But My only true motive is that I've had it with painting. I want to take a place in society. (1973). As I mentioned before, I stopped painting in 1913. Our single exhibition in Amsterdam that year was not successful. However, it was not a farewell to painting forever. In 1925, I took up palette and brush again, initially only on Sundays. After 1954, I exhibited various absolute and what they now call semi-abstract paintings at the Municipal Museum in Amsterdam. The public showed no interest in them, and they generally were ignored by the press. The large canvas I painted in 1912 is hanging in my daughter's home in America. If I think about it, I'm glad I had the opportunity to paint it. When I'm there, I always sit before it and meditate for a half hour or so, while looking at it